Oh, we popped up there.
Hey, David McGuffin here, right here in the heart of Venice, St. Mark's Square. Rainy day, and it's high water, acqua alta. So the entire piazza is almost flooded, depending on the tide. We just visited inside the basilica behind me, had to walk on the planks to get inside there and see the beauty inside there. But just take a look around here, because the Piazza San Marco is flooded and loaded.
I remember sitting there.
Yeah. It's a fancy coffee, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
€10 for a set.
Flooding problem. We were there.
Mm-hmm.
From Piazza San Marco here in Venice on a rainy and wet day. Your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Ciao.
Ciao.
This is Travel Talk Tuesday, February the 9th, 2021, and we're doing Venice Part 2. So tonight we're talking about Venice. Venice is a city located in the northeastern part of Italy. So if you think of, we'll see some maps in a few minutes, but it's been in existence for a long, long time. Originally, there was a marshy lagoon area. And what happened was that the first settlers started being pushed out by invaders, and they ended up living on these little swampy islands. And what happened with that was that there was more people than the islands. And so they started cutting down wood on the nearby countrysides, on the plains and in the forests, bringing the wood in 30-foot long poles, like telephone poles almost, and driving them down into the lagoon, into the mud. And they would be 20 feet into the mud and 10 feet into the water, all submerged. And they began putting dirt and foundations and stone and all of that. And eventually, the city of Venice proper, along with all the other little islands around there, were developed. And by around 800 AD, there was enough people there for them to elect a ruler. And the ruler that they elected was known as the Doge, D-O-G-E, Doge. And over the next 10, 15, 20 years, they had a form of government developed that was a democracy of sorts. It began that way with a Senate and the Procuriate, and then the Council of the Ten, and all of these were checks and balances on the Doge. So the Doge was not really a king or anything like that. He was an elected leader, and he was elected from the Senate and from the Council of the Ten. And so eventually, those cities all over Italy, and every Christian city had a patron saint. And the patron saint of Venice was initially named Saint Theodore, or Theodore. And if you've been to Venice, you can see on a column near the lagoon, there's a guy standing on what looks like an alligator. And the alligator is a sea monster of sorts. And Theodore supposedly, as his miracle, defeated the sea monster and became the patron saint of Venice for just 12 years. And then the Venetians were shipbuilders and sailors and traders. And as they were trading down what we now know in Egypt, Alexandria, they discovered and stole the bones of Mark, the Saint Mark, and brought them back to Venice. And Saint Mark became the patron saint of Venice in 823 and has been the patron saint ever since. So St. Mark is where that big square is named, Piazza San Marco in Italian, and the church that is there in Venice is St. Mark's Basilica, or Basilica San Marco. So that's what we're looking at. Now, I want to share with you a little bit about my hors d'oeuvres for tonight. Let me hold up just a little bit. It's a little bit of everything. So I made bruschetta, which is grilled bread, and I really did grill it this week with pomodoro sauce, with tomato sauce on it. And you're going to see in a few minutes my recipe of making that, so you can see that. I've got some just grilled bread. It's also called bruschetta. And bruschetta, Charlotte, if she was here when she walks in, she's going to tell me I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but it's bruschetta. And this is just grilled bread with olive oil on it. And then I got some salami and Parmesan cheese. So that's that. I'm drinking a wine from the Venice Lagoon called Soave. Let me see that bottle right there. Yeah, that one's good. So this is from the Venice Lagoon called Soave, and they actually have islands that have vineyards on them just 10 minutes away from Venice. And this is a typical wine, white wine that comes from there. You also might know the wine that's most available here in the United States called Pinot Grigio, which is a more crisp, tart wine. This is a bit smoother and not with such an acid taste. So it's called Soave. You can get it at ABC or whatever else. So let me show you, without further ado, a little bit about how to prepare this bruschetta and pomodoro.
There we go.
So I began with this.
Today I'm preparing for my
Oh, I guess we'll let this guy tell you about it first.
some appetizers ready, some antipasti ready for my talk on Venice tonight. And I'm going to start with some roasted tomatoes in the oven to make some tomato sauce to go in the bruschetta. So first of all, I just get some plum tomatoes. I'm going to cut them in half lengthwise. Really easy to do. It's a really simple preparation here.
With this preparation, they don't even have to be the most freshest ripe tomatoes either.
Very low heat, about
Especially this time of year, they don't have much taste, but we'll add taste to it.
I have a convection roast feature on my oven, so about 3 hours convection roast in the oven. I'm going to sprinkle them with some olive oil and oregano and let them sit for a while. Got them in the pan, going to drizzle some olive oil. I'm always very liberal with olive oil. Sprinkle with oregano. A little more drizzle of olive oil. In the oven, 275 degrees. Convection roast for 3 to 4 hours until they're nice and soft and shrivelled. Okay, my tomatoes have been roasted. I'm just lightly peeling them to keep in a lot of the juice. It's kind of a sloppy job to peel it off. Pull out the top stem as well while you're doing it.
It almost has a consistency of salsa once you're finally doing that Mexican
What I'm
salsa.
doing here is just mashing them up with a fork. And if there's any larger peels or anything that are left in there, I'll cull those out. Now I'll take some of the garlic and the red onion and incorporate that as well. So that's what we're getting to. Add a little olive oil. Add a little olive oil. Kosher salt or sea salt. Some fresh ground pepper. Give it a good stir. Taste. it in the refrigerator, let it chill. And then it's ready to go on top of the bread. Let's see, I think I've got, this is my oven-dried tomato recipe along with the bruschetta that I'm making.
So you can refer back to that later, or text me or email me or ask for it, and I'll just send you the recipe. But it works out really well, and it tastes great. It's really infused with the onion and garlic. The basil makes it excellent. So I can attest to it. I'm eating it right now. Pretty good.
Hey, David McGuffin here from Venice, Italy. We're on the Capo Santa Formosa. A square, maybe 300 meters or so off St. Mark's Square, and school's out. 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5, a lot of kids are out here playing. Real life happening here in Venice.
You notice there are no tourists around. And seriously, we're 200 or 300 yards off the main square in Venice. So this is a city that really has people that live in it. It's not just a fairy tale, silly amusement park.
Formosa. This is David McGuffin saying your adventure starts right here in Venice with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
So as I mentioned a few moments ago, where Venice is located, and you can see I have a map here of Italy, and on that map I show my Best of Italy tour, which begins in Rome and visits these destinations, the Cinque Terre, Volterra, Florence. We've had a Travel Talk Tuesday episodes on Volterra and Florence and in Rome, and now we're doing Venice. We have future episodes for Lake Como, Milan, and the Cinque Terre, and then visit some other destinations as well in Italy with 2 others, Northern Italy and Southern Italy. So those are my travel talks coming up in the next month or so. But you see Venice is located right up here in the top northeastern part of the country. So Venice is an island off the coast there, and you can kind of see, if you use your imagination, it's kind of shaped like a fish. And it's in this lagoon, and there's this one causeway that connects it that has a road, a 2-lane road, and a railroad track going into it. And that's how you get in and out of Venice. Once you arrive at the main train station, which is just in this vicinity, then the other transportation that you have is all on the water. So we have vaporetto, which are water buses. You have taxi cabs, which are big speedboats. You have gondolas, and you have traghetto, which are small little gondolas that take you for €1 from one side of the lagoon to the other. And that's the way everyone gets around. There's also other little islands. The cemetery is here. This is a map in my guidebook that I have of Venice, and you can see the same sort of thing. This is the main square right here. So 99% of the people that visit Venice spend their time here and going between here and the Accademia Bridge and the Rialto Bridge. All the other parts are kind of like that Campo Formoso that I just showed you, that people live there. There's about 60,000 people that live there now, and the population is dwindling by year after year after year, because other than tourism, there's not much work in Venice. We, with a lot of my tours, we stay out from the historic city center on an island where the beaches are on the Adriatic Sea. And that's the lagoon barrier islands on the Adriatic Sea, and it's called the Lido, or the Beach of Venice. Now, this is me. I've got a few pictures. I think I shared with you a few other times of my first ever trip to Europe was in 1977, and it was with a choir that I was in called the local college chorale, and we went to Venice as one of the destinations in Italy. And so this is me standing on a bridge. I was thinner and bushier back then, but that's about it. Nothing much else has changed. And so a few pictures of that tour. And I don't know, there may be some folks on here tonight that were members of that group that I was traveling with in 1977, or maybe on Facebook Live. If you are, say something and or give me a holler, and I'd love to chat with you a little bit. This is in St. Mark's Square. I don't feed the pigeons very often, only for a photo moment. And that's only because I did it in 1977. So there I am feeding the pigeons in the Piazza San Marco. And we went on a gondola ride. This is my friend Brian there on the left, Doug on the right, and myself and Pam and Eva peeking over Brian's shoulder there. Also, I think I've got maybe one more from there. Yeah, we did a concert at this church right here. It's St. Moses Church, and it's located in the direction of the Academia Bridge, and we packed the house. And I remember, there's no recordings, but we stood on the altar here, up here on the steps, and sang for an hour. The house was packed. I remember getting standing ovation, and it was a vivid memory of us being there in Venice. There I am in 1997, feeding pigeons again. And that was 20 years later. I went back to Venice and took some of my band students, and we did a performance tour from Paris down to Rome. So Venice was one of the stops. And that's a group right there in Piazza San Marco. It's amazing. I know everybody's name in all these groups. I can remember that, but I can't remember what day it is. So, hey, June 14th, 1997. There you go. So as soon as these show, I want to read just a couple of my journal entries about this. There's the whole crew there. 1997, this was May 1977, May 18th. We arrived in Venice at 1:30 p.m. We got off the bus and we got on a boat, and we rode the boat with our luggage for about a mile to our hotel. One of my friends stepping out of the boat with his luggage had his camera in his front pocket. Back then, they were little Instamatic cameras, which were about this long, and it went right into the lagoon. It was gone. It was all gone, down wet, and I never found it again. So we all shared photos with him. We ate pizza for lunch. And then my friend Doug and I, we walked around for a little bit, and we went up into the top of the bell tower there on St. Mark's Square. And I do believe that might be the only time I've ever been up that bell tower in St. Mark's Square. The next morning, we took a tour throughout the city center. We went to a glass factory to see a gentleman make a little horse. We went to the Doge's Palace, and then we walked. We broke up from our group, and so we broke out and we went over to that Academia Bridge into the church just across the canal from the main square of Piazza San Marco, a church called Santa Maria della Salute. I remember it took us a long time because we thought we had to go all the way almost to the Rialto Bridge and back, when it would have taken us 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It took us about an hour to do that whole trip because we didn't know what we were doing. We were just trying to get to that church on the other side of the canal. So we did that. Now, 1990, that was it. And we had the concert that night too. So 1997 was a bit different. We were coming from Switzerland, from Interlaken, Switzerland, on a bus. And we left Interlaken at 10:30 in the morning, and we did not get to our hotel on the Lido in Venice until 9:30 at night. And this was with a well-known student tour company was leading this tour, not a David McGuffin tour. So we showed up at the hotel. They had a cold dinner waiting on us because it had been on the table, I guess, for several hours because we were late. And it was turkey roast, asparagus soup, French fries, and a peach half for dessert. I mean, that's what they spend, €3 or €4 on that menu, but that's what we had. And here's the worst thing. That night, we had our bus driver, his name was Alberto, and we had a truck driver that was carrying our equipment. His name was Piero. And we we woke up the next morning and found out that someone had broken into our bus and stolen like CD players and jackets and, that kind of stuff that you could get rid of. I guess thieves could get rid of real quickly. And so we found out that happened. And it was just weird because there was no evidence of the bus being broken in other than on the driver's side of the bus, there was a door that would open up. And our driver showed us that the lock had been jimmied a little bit. But in retrospect, we really think that the driver and the truck driver were the culprits, the thieves who did that. And so I've never had a bus driver since then that I don't know and trust. And so that was a lesson learned. So it made a dismal day, a beginning of the day in Venice, but we did go in, ride the boat across, and we had a great time. And let's say, as you see some of those pictures in 1997. When I started my company in 2001, I vowed that, number one, we would eat well, and number two, that we wouldn't waste time just running around trying to find things, waiting on reservations and things like that. As the years have progressed, I've gotten better and better at that, and I can't wait to go back and get to it again. So there's the group still on the screen, 1997. My kids are in there somewhere. Along with everybody else on that tour. So we had a real good group. That's Leslie in the background, my son Brian in the front, and Sabrina and Chris in the gondola there. Anybody online for that from that tour?
Hey, David McGuffin here. In the heart of Venice on a gondola. Running down one of the little canals going to Grand Canal. What a great place to visit. Off season, the gondola inside. We've made our way out here to the Grand Canal out behind us.
Hey Ken, I see you on there. How you doing, man? You and Patty on there? Hadn't seen you in a while.
Sure. Your adventure starts here.
You can take a gondola ride in Venice anytime. There's a little over 200 gondolas. They're kind of like the taxi cabs in New York City in that they're regulated and you have sort of a medallion on it, and the gondolier passes down from family to family from family. The boats are about $25,000. And it costs a bit of money to ride it. You can rent a boat from €80 for the daytime till about €100 in the evening, and a boat seats 6 people. So you can rent it for 6. Sorry, you can rent it for 6 people and split the cost, or you can rent it for you and your sweetheart and pay a little bit more for a more intimate experience. That duration is about 40 minutes. Then you pay more for music, a singer, and a longer duration. But it's well worth doing. If you've never been to Venice before, do it one time. I guess in my lifetime, I've done it quite a bit.
Living room and getting ready to make this menu, spaghetti alle vongole. So the ingredients are pretty simple. Vongole is Italian for clams. And these kinds I bought at our local big box store, Costco. And we also have olive oil. You see some parsley over here that I'm going to chop up, garlic, red pepper flakes, and I have my mixture of what I call Chianti spices, which back until last year, used to purchase in bulk in Greve and Chianti. I've since made my own mixture, and some white wine. We have some Rufino white wine from Pinot Grigio from Venice. And then, of course, Barilla pasta number 5. I've got the water boiling, and I've got the oil going. So we're going to get going on this menu of spaghetti alle vongole. Okay, I've divided my clams to have half tonight and white sauce, half tomorrow and red sauce. I've chopped my garlic and parsley. Got out my Chianti spices, a teaspoon of that, red pepper flakes, all waiting on the water to boil. Okay, so I've got my pasta water going, it's boiling. I'm gonna put it in here for about 9 minutes or so. And then I use Barilla pasta number 5. Just a little handful, there's 3 of them, so a little extra. Put it in here, let it boil. It's salted water already. And then I have here olive oil going, and I'm gonna put in the garlic that I chopped up already. That's gonna go in there just for a couple of minutes. And as soon as that becomes flavored, I'm gonna put in the clams, the vongole. Gosh, I can smell it already. Clams going next. These clams came from Costco. They were 20 bucks, and this is half of it. So that goes in there. I'm gonna let it heat up a little bit. And then I'm gonna add in the white wine. So that's on the high back here. Now, the deal with clams are, first of all, you don't put any clams in here that are already open, because that means they're dead. And then, once you cook them, you don't use any clams that do not open. So, I'm going to put in some white Pinot Grigio in here. I'm going to let that sit for a bit. I'm going to cut. So we'll let it all simmer for 5-10 minutes and see how it goes. So the clams are cooking here in the wine. They're not open yet. I'm going to go ahead and put in my Chianti spices, or what my recipe called for red pepper flakes, but yeah, I've already mentioned to you my Chianti spices. I've chopped off the parsley as well. We'll put the parsley in at the very last minute. The wine and ginger to reduce. You can see the clams are opening already. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Irish butter in there too. You know, always Irish butter.
That's taboo, I'm sure.
I'll make all the sauce creamy. So let that melt. I'm putting the pasta in. As soon as it melts, dip it in the bowl, and you're ready to chow down. Still, I'm going to use the same type of cooking method, which means we cook the sauce and the clams. Then you put it all together. The pasta goes in with that, which no matter what kind of sauce is called a manicatura. So that's going in there. So here comes the pasta into the spaghetti alle vongole. And a little bit of water there makes it great. All mix it together. Okay, into the bowl. Into this bowl. And we have dinner ready for tonight. There you go.
Now, that's served in any seaside village. You can get that menu, and I love it everywhere. You can also put in some tomato sauce or pomodoro sauce and make it red. When we go to the Cinque Terre, I'll show you that version as well. But it's wonderful if you like seafood. You can also add shrimp or scallops or anything else you want to add into that. And so it's great, fresh out of the water, nice, fresh tasting. So that's one of my favorite menus. Now, when visitors go to Florence, 95% of them only, like I mentioned before, see several major sites. The church there on Piazza San Marco. They visit the palace right next to that called the Doge's Palace. And then there's a main street that runs from Piazza San Marco to the Rialto Bridge, which was built in the late 1500s. And it's a very ornate bridge that crosses the canal, the Grand Canal. That's one of 3 bridges that crosses the canal. So that's where people walk back and forth. No matter if they come in, with tour groups, or if they come in on a cruise boat, or they come in, even do a day trip. That's the main things that they're going to go do and see in the historic city center of Venice. There's not a whole lot of destinations. There's not a lot of museums to go see there. So you go there for the experience of being in Venice. Sit in a pizzeria, a cafe on the canal, watch the commerce go by on the water, have a good meal. But there are also a few islands scattered throughout the lagoon there that if you get on their water taxi or water bus, the Vaporetto bus, you can get to within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on what island you're going to. And one of the most famous is Murano, which is where they make the glass, the famous blown glass Murano with an M, M-U-R-A-N-O. Further out, there's a small little island called Burano, B-U-R-A-N-O, Burano, and it's famous for being a fishing village and for the lace that the old ladies make there on the island. They also do glass blowing as well. But this is Vorano.
Hi, David McGuffin here on the island of Vorano in the Venice Lagoon. It's about an hour's ride on the Vaporetto, the water bus, on the way out here, but just a cute little village, plenty of canals, little quaint bridges, and of course everything is painted in very pastel colors all around town. It's a great escape from the hustle and bustle of Venice, just an hour away with Piazza San Marco and everything. So I always like to come out here just to slow down and be on the quieter side of Venice and experience the life of a laid-back Italian town. Vorano is an island in the Venetian lagoon. It's located to the north and to the east of St. Mark's Square and Venice proper. It takes about 45 minutes to go by boat, by Vaporetto boat, from Venice to Vorano. And this island's very easy to reach from the main city of Venice. There are about 3,000 people living in these colorful dwellings here on Vorano, while the total number of people living in the Venetian lagoon area is about 60,000. Legend has it that these homes in Vorano are painted such bright colors so that the fishermen coming in from the lagoon, even in the fog, would be able to find the island and spot their homes with the bright colored pastel prints. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look around the beautiful village of Vorano in the lagoon of Venice. Hey, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Ciao.
Now, being a tour guide and having been to these places time and time again, whether it be big cities like Paris or Dublin or London or Rome, or little villages like Vorano or Volterra or Beaune in France or Kilkenny in Ireland, I try to find experiences that are unique. And then if I ever happen upon something, I would like to try to make it happen again. For example, I can think of numerous times in pubs in Ireland where, the Guinness is flowing pretty good and the musicians are just doing fantastic. And you could go to that same pub the next night or the next time you show up, there might be a different group of musicians, but the ambiance and the environment would pretty much still be the same. And so I found myself in Vorano some years back in 2008 was when it was. And some of you who are watching tonight saw this last week as well, because it happened to be one of the videos I could get my hands on. But I was leading the tour, and we had the second day in Venice off. We'd seen all the big sites, and so I took the boat out to Vorano and spent the day, or at least the afternoon there. And I came across a group of men who obviously live there and were locals and were having a great time. And I had a little small Motorola Razr flip phone, which, you know, I thought it was the best thing ever because it was small and it had a camera and it could record audio. So I recorded this of these guys singing. And the whole story about trying to duplicate it is I've been there twice, 2 other times, to specifically to see if I could find this guy with the accordion or even recognize any of the guys singing. And invariably, I just can't duplicate it. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and there's no way I can duplicate it. So these are some pretty good singers in Vorano, out there, that little village that I just showed you.
This is David McGuffin, and recently I found myself way out in the lagoon of Venice on the little island of Vorano. Vorano was famous for lakes and is known as a fishing village. It's all far away. Well, I arrived there late in the afternoon, and I found myself right amongst a few local men enjoying themselves in song. I had to join them. Take a listen here. Stuff just because they enjoy it. They're hangouts. They don't want any money. They're the local guys, and they're having a blast and doing it. My kind of town, Vorano, Italy. In the lagoon of Venice. Get out of Piazza San Marco.
This is an hour or so later. They're well lubricated, I think. The lungs are doing pretty well as well. So by this time, I had made friends with a few of them, at least for them to share some of their food with me and some of their wine with me. And so I got to join in the last few notes of Santa Lucia. You can hear me singing first tenor in the background. I've got one more video to show you that's about 8 minutes in length. But before I do that, and we finish up this episode, I'd like to, if anybody wants to open up their mics and chat about being in Venice or some experience of traveling with me or whatnot, I'd love to have you join in. I see we've got quite a few people joining us on Zoom tonight, and several people checking in also on Facebook. But on Zoom, you get to participate if you'd like to. So. Open up your mic and give me a holler. Say something if you'd like to. You know, I know several of you have been there with me, have been to Venice with me. Anybody?
Hey, David, I have a question, actually. You were saying something about taking a gondola ride, and I actually posted a question in the chat. I was wondering if you know how many female gondoliers there are now. I know there was like one who made history, but is there more than one now, or is it still just the one?
Well, as of 2019, I think there were 3 of them. And of 2019. Daphne, thank you. Nice to see you as well from up in DC, right? You and Gary. I remember y'all were in Italy with me some years back. Yeah. But you know what? The females, I've never had one and never seen one on a canal. So I'm not sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Hey, I think Nancy Snow's on here. I know she and I've been to Venice a couple of times, but didn't you meet a man in Venice that gave you some candy or snacks or something? What was that?
Oh,
if you're on here.
Was that the big snack mix thing that we decided that we needed a large bag of?
Yeah, very large that we carried around with us for the rest of the tour and munched on for another week and a half or so, right?
I think so. And my point was I should have listened, because I did not know when I took a group of girls over there that there were taxis. So we walked the entire.
Oh gosh!
After we saw one and one that was having trouble, she said, "They do have taxis here."
Oh yeah, they're just on the water, right?
Yeah.
How about anybody else? Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you guys joining in, and I'm going to play this last little segment about Venice, and it shows you some of the famous landmarks and whatnot, and then I'll wrap it up after that with what's coming next and a little update on tourism in Europe.
Even though I've seen it time and time and time again.
So I'm talking here in Lake Como.
Is unlike anywhere else in the world.
That's where I'm doing the audio.
The way to get around in Venice is to take the public transportation, which in this case is a water bus known as a vaporetto. It's pretty much like a subway map or a city bus map. So these are all the routes. They're showing the bus routes to the various canals around the island of Venice. We're going to use bus number 41 to go from our stop here at Freya. We're going to go 2 stops to the railroad station. So 1424, there should be a boat coming along that we're going to hop on. Pretty easy. Welcome to Venice. One of the ladies that's traveling with us right now exclaimed as soon as we were riding the boat into Venice, the buildings just fall right into the water. So that's very unique. No sidewalks or anything along the canals. You just got the buildings falling right into the water. In Venice, I also use local tour guides that are a bit different from traditional guides that give you just a bunch of dry commentary on everything. So we had a charming young lady named Roberta. She's a Venetian and has lived there all her life. With Roberta, we went into the San Marco Basilica and were able to get an insider's perspective on all the history there, but yet not be bored with a lot of needless details or things we would never remember.
But of course, don't forget, this was the private church of the Venetian government. And all this gold also represents the power and wealth of Venice. The Venetians adore gold.
When we arrived in Piazza San Marco, it was halfway underwater because of what the Venetians call acqua alta, or the high water. And when we entered the Basilica of San Marco, actually the the main portico or the main entrance was underwater with about 3 or 4 inches of water.
However, sometimes they have to close the church because the water gets higher than the floods, which start floating away. It gets flooded average 120 times a year. But this year it will be more.
Yeah, 120 times a year.
180 times.
180 times a year.
It gets flooded every day, twice a day.
So it sinks. So Venice is sinking. I think over 100 years it sinks maybe about 6 inches or so every 100 years. And consequently, it floods more and more. Venice is very unique.
Even in the storm, the view is wonderful.
From there, we actually went 4 blocks behind Piazza San Marco and went through some neighborhoods that were lived-in neighborhoods where some of the 60,000 residents of Venice live. Where are we going? It's dark. Howdy. Not only that, we got to stop by a really good gelato shop, got a cup of gelato, and ended our tour to pizzeria.
I'll see you next time. Arrivederci. Have a nice dinner. Ciao.
Venice has a lot to offer, but for me, part of the charm of visiting Venice is getting off the beaten path. We visited the very tail of Venice Island in the neighborhood called Santa Lina. We've ventured to the quiet side of Venice. We're just like 4 Vaporetto stops down from the Piazza San Marco in a very quiet little neighborhood called Santa Elena. And as you can see, there's plenty of trees here, which is unusual in Venice as well. And some just the locals out for the morning. We're here on a Tuesday morning having a great time. Definitely laundry day. So get out, get away, get on the extreme parts of the island, and you'll experience the real Venice. Eyes are the best experience. A little quieter side. You have got to ride in a gondola to go to Venice. I mean, that's the quintessential thing to do. For me, I think the best thing to do is wait until it's getting near dark and spring for the extra €20 and take a tour. It's very charming with the lights flickering on the water, and you get an experience that's not with 50 other boats traveling along next to you. You can put 6 or 7 people in the boat if you want to, or you can just go with you and your sweetheart. If it's your first time to Venice, you've got to do a gondola ride. Another experience that I think is important in Venice is to spend a couple hours at one of the cafes on Piazza San Marco. There's 4 orchestras that play that are really, really good. So the particular orchestra we listened to was at Cafe Quadri, and it was a quintet with a clarinet soloist that was phenomenal. So they played a lot of variety of music, from jazz to classical music. of a drink, you can sit at that table as long as you want to and listen to that orchestra. And there's no better experience, evening experience in all of Europe than sitting on the Piazza San Marco. Just you and the grandest living room of Europe, as Napoleon called it. That was a fantastic way to end our experience in Venice that night.
Okay, I'll stop it there. Let me give you a 2-minute update on what's going on with David McGuffin exploring Europe. And basically, the news hasn't changed for the last couple of months. We're set, ready to go to kick off some tours beginning in May and going all the way through the fall. We've got several of them with groups of people signed up to go. Some have paid a little deposit. Some have just said, when we can travel, I want to go. And so probably like you, many people are itching to go somewhere. I've done a little bit of traveling in Florida over the summer, like 45 minutes to St. Augustine Beach from here. And then we went to North Carolina for a little vacation in July. But other than that, I've not been anywhere. So sticking around home. We're looking forward for the vaccine coming up soon in our area, in our neck of the woods. People are getting vaccinated here. The cutoff limit is 65, and I haven't quite reached that yet. So I'm looking forward to turning 65 and getting my vaccine if that's coming up soon, because I think it'll help us all get on the road and get to traveling and feel much better about it. As far as Europe goes, they're in the same boat we are. They are getting vaccines. Some countries are doing better than the other. But as far as the ratio of population to shots in the arms, it's about the same in most countries throughout Europe where we travel. And so there's a lot of hope. We don't know what's going to happen between the governments and the travel restrictions, say between the EU and the United States, or between the UK and the United States. All that's really up in the air. I don't think as far as mass travel to Europe has changed, or to and from Europe has changed much with the administration change. So I'm hoping that we'll hear something official pretty soon as far as travel restrictions are lifted for incoming travelers and outgoing travelers from the United States to Europe. I'm still hoping that things are going to work. There's a lot of prospects of some us getting on a plane and flying to Europe safely in June and July, I'm thinking. And so the later you get, the better. Many major tour companies are already opening up their tours for July, August, September, October, and hoping that, so maybe they have a little more intel than I do. But until that happens, we're staying at home, staying safe, and not going to Europe until we can travel in my David McGuffin touring style. And that is eating well, enjoying the ambiance, going to the museums and all of that. And when that happens, that's when we're going back to Europe as well. So I hope you guys will take that to heart and, consider traveling along with me. And thank you guys for tuning in, both on Facebook and on Zoom. We've had a great participation tonight. Before I wrap it up, any closing remarks from anyone? Now's the time to cut your microphone and chip in.
David, sorry, Nancy. I posted a thing in the chat for people who like a good murder mystery. It's because you were talking about Acqua Alta. So it's a fun story, and it's a Venetian murder mystery. So if people want to go to Venice, that's a way to go.
And that's the name of the book, right?
Yes, well. It's called Acqua Alta.
Yeah, I've read that. That's great. That's a good one. Thanks, Daphne. Nancy?
I had a question about the waterways in Venice. Have you seen an actual picture from anyone in Venice that shows the clear waterways like they show on the news?
Right, I have. Now, this was, when I saw those posted from people that I know, it was, let's say, June or July, where there's not so much commerce going up and down the lagoon and the vent and there. And so you could see all the way to the bottom.
Okay.
And so that's not just fake news. That's the real thing. I've seen real photos of that.
We talked about it the other day with Janie and a couple other people and wondered if that was really accurate.
Another thing that is helping that as well, and you may have seen this in the news as well, is the new, they've been working on a physical barrier that comes up into the lagoon and rises out of the water when the high tide comes in, aqua alta comes in. It's called, the abbreviation is MOSE, MOSE, and it's an acronym for something, but they've just tried it out less than a month ago and have used it, and it's working. So that also helps contribute to the water staying a little bit less murky and a little more pure as well. Any other closing remarks? Well, listen, guys, thanks so much. Next week, we definitely are going to move on to the foothills of the Alps in Lake Como, and we're staying in a little village called Bellagio. And we'll talk about Lake Como and cruising on Lake Como. And so that's next week. Then we'll do a few more Italian shows. And as we get closer to St. Paddy's Day in March, we've got 2 episodes coming up from Ireland as well. So I've got things planned out through the end of March. And hopefully by then, we can really do Travel Talk Tuesday from somewhere else besides my kitchen. So I'm looking forward to that. But thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. And take care. We'll see you next week.